For the past year, we've been doing a lot of 2.4 gigahertz stuff, and unfortunately, I think this is going to be the last segment in the 2.4 gigahertz series. Now, in this segment, I want to explain wireless scanning tips and techniques. In front of me, I have a smorgasbord of equipment that we've been putting together over the year. We've got the waveguide, we've got some biquads, we've got video scanner, we have Wi-Fi cards, we have modded everything, modded Bluetooth, practically anything that's 2.4 gigahertz. Mine is Zigbee. It's pretty much the only thing I haven't showcased because it's really not that popular and no one's really asked for it. But in this segment, we've also got the Helical, we got the compact collinear. I mean, everything that I've built on the show over the past year is right in front of me, plus a few things that I really haven't shown on the show. Now, I understand that the frame is pulled back really far, and you can't get a good look at a lot of the equipment here, so you can always backtrack to previous segments, but some of the equipment that I have here has not been on the show. You can always go to my Picasa page. So, a lot of you on IRC and on the forums have actually asked for high-quality pictures for reference on a lot of the stuff that I've built in front of me. And, you know what, a picture says 1,000 words. So, go to my Picasa page if you have any interest in any of this kind of stuff, and you'll get actually really nice quality, high-detailed, 6-megapixel, close-up images of all of this. So, there are 3 classifications of any kind of equipment, technically speaking. Now, derived from the ham radio terminology, you have either a handheld or portable, you have a mobile, and you have a base. So something handheld or portable would be something like maybe a PDA or your Nintendo DS, your PSP, something that can do some kind of wireless scanning. I've also got my handheld wireless scanner. This is actually made by Swan Technology. I did modify it with an antenna jack. There's not many pictures of it online, but it was a very simple modification. This really doesn't need too much documentation, but if you want some, ask and you shall receive. So those would be considered handheld devices, something that you can put in your hand, operate it with one hand, put it in your pocket. It'll sustain itself under battery life for an extended amount of time without needing an excessive recharge. So next up from that, you have a mobile. A mobile is a device that you really can't operate it from a very small battery. It needs a beefier battery. Like a laptop would be more like a mobile. Now, I've also got some routers here. Now, if you're not familiar with the Linksys WRT54 series routers, they are actually routers that can run Linux. And this router can actually act as a wireless repeater or even a wireless network card, or within itself, coupled with a serial terminal, such as the Zipit Z1 Instant Messenger, or even a TI-83 calculator, or if you have an actual handheld serial terminal. The two of these together can actually be a Wi-Fi scanner, a network scanner, intrusion detection software. You can modify these to put SD cards in them so they have increased storage. They have a 250 milliwatt output range. They have removable antennas for high gain, so you can put high gain antennas on it. You really can't put this in your pocket, but you can put a battery pack on the WRT router and put it in a bag, walk around with it, and no one will even know that you're actually scanning for Wi-Fi or doing network penetration tests. Smaller yet are the Fauna 2100 and the 2200 routers. They were given away for very cheap, if not free, at some point, but you really have to get into them and hack them. Fawn has really been locking them down, and it has been a bitch, but you can run, they do natively run DDWRT or OpenWRT, which is an open source, relatively open source Linux distribution, and these run the Atheros chipset, meaning you can do packet injection and promiscuous mode, and at this point in time, you can actually use the Fawn routers to actually crack web encryption, but I'm not going to get into that. It's not the scope of today's segment. So, you can also use your laptop. That's more of a mobile device, as long as you have battery life and a decent antenna. Now, you can actually go about and put together a wireless video scanner, which is more of a portable than handheld, which is my rifle. I don't have it put together right now, but for the most part, this is it. I think I've showcased it on the show before. It's a cutout of piece of wood with a scanner. I usually put the battery pack here, lots of Velcro to attach different devices and screens. You can go on my Picasa page and get really good images of this. Now, the reason I would consider this a portable device is because it's not really something you could put in your pocket like the handheld scanner I have in front of me. The first thing I really want to get into is 2.4 gigahertz video scanning tips and techniques, because I find it's the most fun. Now, the thing about 2.4 gigahertz is it also requires the most bandwidth. Now, bandwidth for radio is similar to bandwidth with your computer. Now, Wi-Fi takes up a moderate amount of bandwidth, I think 5 kilohertz per channel. I do believe Bluetooth takes up about the same, if not less. Wireless audio and video can take up to 5 or 6 megahertz, so it needs a wider frequency to transmit. So if you go back a couple of episodes and look at the segment Ophidian did on the Y-SPI wireless 2.4 gigahertz wireless spectrum analyzer, he actually shows you what happens when you have a 2.4 gigahertz camera operating in the 2.4 gig band while you have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. It actually eats up a very big part of the spectrum. So I've got the laptop here, and I've got my handheld scanner, and I've got this really cool tripod base. It's actually for an X10 security camera, and with the remote control I actually can remote control and precisely position a biquad or whatever antenna. I prefer the biquads. They have a relatively decent amount of gain for their size. They're easy to make. They have a very wide amount of bandwidth, and they're really easy to mount this stuff. Go watch the biquad segment. Biquads have to be my favorite so far. So with this little setup, I can actually waterproof my biquad and put this little guy outside, and I can actually program in 4 different positions. So if you run your coax to your Wi-Fi card, I've actually got my Wi-Fi card right here. You waterproof everything, and you can put this outside, and the tripod base is waterproof. You can go ahead and put it outside, and if you actually don't feel like getting off your couch, if you have a computer per se, and not a laptop, you can run the coax into your house and then pre-program in 4 different positions of really good signal strength. So, every once in a while, if you want to go and get a couple of extra megs of download for your torrents, all you gotta do is push a single button. It'll tune into the access point, and you're good to go. But pretend I didn't say that. But anyway, let's get to the wireless video scanning tips and techniques, shall we? Yes, we shall. Whether you like it or not, we're going to. Alright, so in front of us we have a screen capture of what I'm seeing on screen right now. We've got the rubber duck antenna. Now this has been modified. I really don't have any pictures of it, but if you need them I can provide them. This is actually a Swan 2.4 gigahertz wireless video receiver. Pretty much it's a baby monitor. That's usually what they sell them as. They're relatively expensive, ranging into $250, but they're actually very nice to have. They're handheld and they're portable. And as I move the antenna around, you'll notice that we have something on channel 1. But seeing how we only have a rubber duck antenna, we don't get a very good signal. If you notice on the screen, you can kind of see that there's some structure to the video. It's not straight and pure static. Now, if we go to another channel, the static will change slightly. Now, I do have a camera on channel 3, which is a picture of a plush rabbit in my bedroom. And if you notice, we got a lot of these really awkward horizontal bars on the screen that are acting as interference. That's actually Wi-Fi. That is the telltale sign that this is picking up Wi-Fi. And if I haven't stated already, video will take up a larger amount of bandwidth. If you go back to Ophidian's segment, where he demonstrated the Y-SPI, he actually shows you on a graph, an actual spectrum equalizer, of how much bandwidth a video actually takes up. So when selecting the proper antenna, I prefer biquads. The reason I like biquads is they're easy to make, they're relatively inexpensive, they're durable, you can waterproof them. They're just really my favorite antenna so far. However, as you go through the channels, if you notice how this channel 4, channel 4 will actually have diagonal hum bars, as I call them. So this is just a real clusterfuck of Wi-Fi as well as video. So I'm actually going to go and swap out to the biquad antenna real quick. And normally, all you get without the antenna, this would be normal static. This is what you'd normally see. As you start to get close to the to an actual transmitter, you'll actually notice some structure starting to actually tune in to the screen. It really depends on the refresh rate of your screen. Now, the capture card has a very hard time picking up static. So if I go through this, you'll notice that the hum bars on the screen, it looks like you're almost trying to pick up a TV channel, but you're not quite. And if you look at this one, where I have the biquad positioned, you'll just faintly notice that there are actually 2 taillights and a license plate. This is the channel 1 on this is actually to a one of my local neighbors' driveway. This is where he parks his car. So if we actually go off center axis, you'll notice that it'll start to fade away. and then if we go back, it'll fade in. And this is one of the tips that you really should try to use with wireless video scanning, that every time that a signal will reflect off of a metal surface, its phase will actually rotate 90 degrees. So usually that's why I take a helical antenna when video scanning. In fact, let's hook up the helical and see what kind of signal we get from the helical indoors. So when doing video scanning, the biquad is nice and small, but typically the helicals will actually yield a better gain, but it really determines on what kind of environment that you're in. If you're in a cityscape like I am, you're probably better off using a helical as it's circular polarized. However, the biquad does have wider bandwidth, meaning it can receive a larger range of bandwidth of actual frequency at once. So let's see if we can try to tune this in real quick. I really don't think we're going to hit it with this antenna indoors. So unfortunately, this antenna doesn't have as much bandwidth. If you notice that we're getting a much crisper, clearer signal from my bedroom, and the Wi-Fi is barely negligible. I mean, we can get a much wider sweep with the helical, but there's something on channel 4 around here, but I'm not getting a good signal indoors. And unfortunately, this is why I actually wanted to go out and do this, so I can actually show you in-field segments and tips and techniques. So when doing video scanning, you have to understand that your signal will reflect and bounce off of metal surfaces, so you have to have an antenna that will pick up reflected signals easier. So I would go with the biquad or helical. The compact collinear really doesn't have enough bandwidth or enough gain to really pick up anything. It works, but it's a bit better than a rubber duck. You could actually use one of the windsurfers, which I have here, but it's taken apart. You can use the windsurfer parabolic reflector and put that around the rubber duck, but I find that these things are too flimsy. You're better off building a biquad itself. Now, when you're actually doing wireless video scanning technique, wear headphones and try to key in your audio. And what you'll notice is the audio carrier will actually fade from static to actual structured, audio. You'll actually hear it coming in sooner than you'll see it. But the thing with that is you can either have a 6.5 megahertz carrier or a 6 megahertz carrier. This is a 6.5 megahertz carrier. The one that I have in the bedroom, the camera that's transmitting, is 6 megahertz. So unfortunately, you do not pick up audio on this thing if it's off the center carrier. Now, these are just a few of the tips and techniques for video scanning. It's really an art form to it. You can even use your body as a reflector when you're using a rubber duck, so the radio signals will actually reflect off of your body. Or you can actually keep it close to your body and act as an attenuator. Your body will absorb the radio waves, so unless you're right on top of the transmitter, you're not going to get a signal. So, well, that's it for wireless video. I got to go and turn off the camera because it's going to interfere with the rest of the project, so let me cut frame and reset up, and next we'll get into Bluetooth. Alright, so Metatron, a couple of episodes, showed us some Linux tools and utilities for scanning from Bluetooth, including BT Scanner. Unfortunately, I don't have the setup to do screen captures from Linux at the moment, but I did want to show you something pretty cool. Now, I'll actually narrate now, but I'll put the camera up to the phone and I'll show you. If you have a Motorola phone, in fact, my girlfriend has an LG LX or LG 10,000 Voyager, and it actually has something similar to a program called BT Scanner, which, like I said, Metatron has showed us. And it'll actually scan for Bluetooth devices and actually show their device names and their features. Bluetooth scanning in itself is actually a very technical thing, and it's very difficult to do. You have to have a very good understanding of Bluetooth in itself. Devices can actually be in a client mode or master mode or slave mode. You have SCO links, and there's a lot of abbreviations, and there's profiles, and there's protocol. But if you just want to do some scanning, go to your phone and open it up, go to the phone book, and go to any contact whatsoever, and go to send. And when you hit select for the send, it's going to ask you to turn your Bluetooth on if it's not already on. And I would recommend turning your Bluetooth off at all times until you want to use it. And go to look for devices. And your phone will actually scan through the Bluetooth frequencies. I believe that there's 79 of them. And it'll actually look for devices. Now, I'm actually going to go back to the computer real quick and do some screen caps off the wireless video scanner, and I want to show you something that's pretty cool. So let me hit record real quick. So we got plain static, and now I'm going to look for devices. And you can hear the Bluetooth scanning. And now it's stopped. I'll hit scan one more time. And you'll also notice that on your screen you'll get a whole bunch of horizontal lines. These horizontal lines are actually the video scanner trying to pick up as video the digital data of the Bluetooth. Now, Bluetooth on average will not break more than 2 milliwatts of output power. There are 3 classes of Bluetooth. Class 1, 2, and 3 is either 1 watt, 5 watt, or 1 milliwatt, 3 milliwatt, or 10 milliwatt. So when you're buying a Bluetooth dongle to mod, try to go and get a Class 1 device, as it will have the highest power output. And also try to look for something with a CSR radio chipset, or the Cambridge Silicon Radio. Reason being is their radio chipset really kicks ass. It's the Blue Core Bluetooth chipset, and it's highly hackable and highly moddable. As for antennas with the Bluetooth, waveguides are really nice. I actually built this one in an earlier segment where the Bluetooth is directly hardwired into the waveguide. It's relatively portable. Normally what I'll do is I'll fold the legs to the tripod back, and I'll throw this in my backpack right over my shoulder, and I'll just leave my laptop scanning in my backpack. Or you can actually hold it like so and scan. When you go out and scan, location, location, location. The best places to go and scan are where there are the most people. Busy intersections, places where there's a lot of traffic, highway overpasses, coffee shops, train stations, Grand Central Station or Pennsylvania Station or Union Square here in New York City are some of the hot spots that we like to go and scan. Every once in a while we'll go to a coffee house where there's a 4-way, 6-lane in each direction street where there's a lot of traffic, and around rush hour people will actually have a lot of bottlenecking in the cross sections, and people are sitting with their Bluetooth headsets and their Bluetooth phones and even their Bluetooth cars, and you can use things like Red Fang, Car Whisperer, or even just BT Scanner while sitting on the corner at a local shop sipping a cup of coffee or whatever you like to drink. And that's about that. I really wouldn't go as far as hooking up a helical antenna to a Bluetooth device, as they're just too bulky, and Bluetooth devices tend to be relatively small. Now, there is a lot of relative naughtiness that you can do with Bluetooth devices, especially with hands-free headsets. And using the CSR chipset, there are utilities that you can use to actually do packet sniffing under Bluetooth, but that's still something I'm trying to learn myself. I've been studying the Bluetooth protocol quite a bit, and it's relatively difficult, but it's really fun once you actually get a hold of it. So the next runner-up is Wi-Fi, and I left this for last because there's actually a lot to say about this. Now, when it comes to Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi typically has 11 channels in the United States, 14 in the UK, and I think Japan. Now, again, my personal favorite antenna for Wi-Fi is the biquad. Helical antennas are really awesome for long-range shootouts. And the thing is, you gotta keep them short. You can't make them as long. You can only maybe make about 3.5 decibel gain helical antennas if you want to put it on the end of a dish. I do believe, now correct me if I'm wrong, the longest Wi-Fi shootout was almost 225 miles. First was about 190, but the team that, I think either the same team or another team went out and actually made almost a 250-mile link using over-the-counter equipment. Really, nothing but laptops, satellite dishes, a couple of helical antennas, and some Wi-Fi cards, over-the-counter stuff. Now, when you're scanning for Wi-Fi, the thing with NetStumbler, it's a great program. However, it's really not that good if you just want to get a signal report. NetStumbler was designed for war driving, and kudos to the creator for NetStumbler. I've had many years of fun with it. However, it has not been updated in years, so a lot of modern cards will not work with NetStumbler. And according from what I've seen on the developer's blog and on the forums, they have no intent in updating it whatsoever. There is little to no Vista support at all, and there's no intentions in getting Vista to work with NetStumbler. So NetStumbler's cool for war driving. Is there a better application? Maybe. There's Kismet. Now, Kismet runs on Linux, Kismac if you're running OS X. There are also other applications for war driving and wireless scanning, which I'll put on the forums, but I'm not much of a Mac person, so I can't help you there. So I'll get some advice from everyone else. So NetStumbler is really cool. Unfortunately, trying to navigate through NetStumbler while holding a laptop in one hand with a touchpad isn't really the best to get signal reports. Kismet, for Linux, doesn't really give you the actual signal strength reports. It doesn't give you a chart. So Kismet versus NetStumbler, what's better? Really, my opinion, the right tool for the right job. If you want to go war driving, Kismet, NetStumbler. NetStumbler is what we call an active scanner. It'll actively ping. It'll transmit, say, hey, any Wi-Fi out there? Which is bad, because anyone with common sense can detect NetStumbler. In fact, Kismet can actually detect NetStumbler. So when I'm running Kismet and someone's war driving around my neighborhood, it actually says, someone with NetStumbler is trying to ping your network. So Kismet's a passive scanner, but getting it to work under Linux, you have to have some Linux savvy. I mean, myself, I can get it working these days, but 3 years ago, it was a real pain in the ass. So if you get Backtrack 2 or 3 with a compatible Wi-Fi card, that's great. Now, we've actually modified the Linksys WUSB 54G cards on the show. They're really great cards. In fact, I'm selling them pre-modded with biquads and cables and stuff. And I honestly didn't think people would actually give a crap until I got more and more requests for them. What's really cool about this card is it's Linux compatible, OS X compatible, Vista compatible, XP compatible. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with NetStumbler because the driver database hasn't been updated in 3 years. So even though you have a Wi-Fi card, even if it's brand new and kick-ass, it might not work with NetStumbler because it's just an old program. Albeit it's great, it's obsolete. A better program, if you just really need to get signal reports and really not do war driving, is Insider. Insider is actually made by MetaGeek, the same company that created the Y-Spy. And it'll actually give you a live line graph display of all of the active wireless activity in the area. It's not the fastest in the world. It has absolutely no war driving capabilities whatsoever, but it will work with any card that is either Windows XP or Vista compatible. So if you really just want to do signal reports, which is something I like to do a lot, I really don't care about actually mapping the area. I really care more about trying to figure out where the actual access points are coming from. I'll use Insider over NetStumbler mainly for ease of use and the fact that it actually works with my hardware. Now, you can also get PCMCIA cards, but trying to get PCMCIA cards that work under Linux can not only be tedious, but it's a roll of the dice. If you want to get something under Linux, you got to make sure that the chipset inside of the actual circuitry is supported under Linux. These days, it's relatively easy. Unfortunately, if you're completely new to Linux, the chances of you getting a supported Wi-Fi card out of the box from your local retail store, you might as well just go and smash yourself in the side of the head with a ball-peen hammer to try to get it to work. Really, you have to know intimate details about your hardware. Now, when you're doing Wi-Fi scanning, you have to understand, and in some states, this equipment, in some countries, I know they have some really strict laws out in Germany and UK now, some of this equipment could be illegal. I know in some states, just possession of a waveguide or a antenna will actually get you a weekend in jail just for having it. It's considered conspiracy to commit computer fraud or wiretapping or whatever. So check your local laws. Now, there is a lot more to this. I really don't know what I'm forgetting, besides what antennas to use under Wi-Fi. If you're war driving and you want to have an omnidirectional field of view, I'd definitely go with the compact collinear. I actually have some of these suction cup clamps. They're pretty cool. They're literally clamps that have suction cups on them, and they fit onto the compact collinear perfectly. So I can actually put this suction cupped to the side of the window of a vehicle, or even a moving train if so need be, and then wire this directly into my Wi-Fi card to go and get a signal report. Now, again, the biquad is my favorite of all antennas, but you might want to fool around with the waveguide on this one. Unfortunately, I found that trying to build a waveguide can be a fairly difficult thing to do because not too many people have the skill to drill a hole in a round surface. Again, the biquad is a really fun antenna. Now, if you really want, like I said, if you want to do really long-range shootouts, use 2 helical antennas that are polarized in the same direction, either left-hand coil or right-hand coil. The actual driven element, the actual receiving spiral of wire. Watch the segment and you'll understand. Reason being is, instead of being horizontally or vertically polarized, it's circular polarized in the exact same phase no matter what. So you don't have to worry about the signal actually reflecting or bouncing off of anything. And because only those two signals on that frequency actually are rotating in the same direction, they'll really only want to see each other rather than everything around them. Now, the Wi-Fi channels do actually overlap. Now, I would highly recommend, if you're going to install any kind of Wi-Fi device, at least run Insider, NetStumbler, Kismet, or Kismac, or even get your PDA or your MDA and scan for local Wi-Fi access points just to see what's in the local area. Walk around the block a couple of times. There are some really cool applications for the Pocket PC, as well as the Linux handheld devices and the MDA and things of the such. I'll put into the show notes. We've really covered this in the past, though. And get a site survey of what's going on in your area, and make sure you're not operating on a channel that is actually in use or even being overlapped with another frequency. I'll actually put up a chart of the Wi-Fi frequency so you have a better idea. I'll also put it in the show notes, the exact same graphic I'll be using. So these are just some of the tips and techniques. Whenever you're dealing with any kind of these devices, you got to make sure that you always have enough battery power, because the last thing you want to do is have a battery malfunction out in the field. You go out to what you'd think to be a very wonderful day of scanning for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and wireless video, just to find out that when you get to the area that you want to scan, you wind up running out of battery power, or your batteries are not holding a charge properly. And I was hoping by now we would actually do another physical hacking segment, but time and weather and health have been preventing a lot of us from getting together and doing it. But remember what I've said in episode 1. This is why I said what I said in episode 1. Mustang and I covered dressing elite. You don't want to go into a shitty neighborhood, or even a good neighborhood, at 2 o'clock in the morning carrying this kind of equipment around by yourself. It doesn't matter how good or how rich, hoity-toity, upper class your neighborhood is. The bottom line is there might be someone lurking in the shadows waiting to go and put a knife in your gut to go and take your stuff. And that's the bottom line. So, I hope this is it. I'm going to try to composite what I can together. I know I'm forgetting a lot. There's just really a lot to cover with this, but really, go out and about and experiment. That's what this is all about. Just remember, go out, be safe, go out as a group, go out often, and stay in public areas. I guarantee you that you'll find a lot of fun stuff in the 2.4 gigahertz field, and I really hope this series of segments have enlightened you and entertained you and educated you in getting involved in not only just 2.4 gigahertz wireless, but wireless in general, because coming up soon, we're getting into amateur radio and some other cool shit. So if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to add anything to this, even if you want to do your own little tutorial video, that including your own experiences, maybe do some kind of blog or whatever, hit me up on IRC. Show notes are always on the forums. Forums are always open for discussion, as well as IRC. Let us know your adventures out in the wireless world. We want to hear them. Alright everyone, good luck, have fun, be safe.